Sup, Eli?
Hey dude, how's it going?
Welcome to Dragon Island.
Dragon Island.
I wanted to say Jurassic Park. I feel like this is the closest I'll ever get to being able to say that.
The spots on that cat are skulls.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, you just kind of blew my mind here. So this is a Pokemon-ish game, except with a different world navigation and what I'll call really bad art. I don't like the art style of this video game here.
You know, I was kind of thinking about this. I think I'm just kind of tired of these types of games.
I feel like they get so close to getting it right, but then free-to-play mechanics kind of get in the way. And hopefully, viewer, you'll get a sense of some of the blockades that can come. Even though the game warns you, hey, you don't need to buy anything. Literally, it throws a pop-up at you that's like, hey, you don't need to buy anything in this video game. There are definitely spots where you might want to consider buying things. Anyway, what I did was I activated a quest. This is heavily instance-based in terms of quests. And you do attacks by swiping on the screen. So you'll see Wiggle and Flame. Those are two moves that I can do. And I just swipe in the direction that the move says to attack. And I'm fighting a dude in the woods right now.
Do you find this to be compelling?
I do. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, turn-based RPG stuff is still fun. It still kind of clicks with me. I like it. I don't know.
My thing with these, I feel like you have to invest so much time into them that I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, there is definitely kind of a grind. I mean, it's a gentle one though, as opposed to.
I just mean more along the lines of a Nintendo Pokemon. You know that they had a full team of dudes.
Right.
And worked on it for years.
Right.
Did all the testing, all the balancing, all that stuff.
Right. So I got an egg as a reward. Oh, cool. And apparently, whenever you get an egg, you can spin a wheel and get stuff. And apparently, I could spin it again if I had more coins, but I don't because I don't want to buy IAP. I don't want to make it rain on this game quite yet. I'm not convinced by it. But I got a new dude. His name is Dark Priest. So I guess we'll see how he works out. You can start the game with one of 6 dragons. I picked the Bulbasaur, basically. And what I want to do here, this is not exactly the beginning of the game, but it's close. I just want to give everyone kind of an idea of some of the stuff that's going on. There are dungeons in the game, and I just walked into one, and here we go. I don't know why I'm in the dungeon, really. It just exists, and I can go in there and fight stuff.
Giant wasp, huh?
Yeah, beating it up.
But, I mean, my point with what I was saying with the Pokemon stuff earlier is that, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to invest time in something, I want that thing to be good.
Right.
Really good, you know?
Yeah, you want it to be a Pokemon kind of game, right?
Well, so
just that level of quality.
I mean, so you don't look back and are like, oh, man, that was a dumb way to spend 30 hours of my life.
To this video game's credit, this is probably the closest we've gotten to actually having kind of a legitimate turn-based RPG in that vein. It's still not exactly too close, so there's a capture mechanic. You can capture stuff with cards. In this dungeon, you're supposed to capture 3 Pokemon, or whatever they call it in this video game. Monsters? I don't know. And I'll show you that. It's kind of interesting, though. So, you buy cards from an in-game store with silver. Silver is a currency that I just earned from opening a chest in this dungeon, right? There's also gold, and there's also another kind of currency, I think. So there's 3 kinds of currency. You buy cards with your normal currency, right? And this turtle actually is something I need to capture here. So let's try it out. You gotta beat it up.
Doesn't this just feel kind of unfinished to you?
Asset-wise, yeah.
I mean, this turtle just kind of floating in the darkness. When you dungeon crawl, you're just no animation really to speak of.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of different. I mean, I guess they took the Pokemon idea, which was just they just put 2 monsters on the screen. They make really crappy effects at each other until one dies.
I feel like I'm being a downer, but
no, I think that's acceptable. I mean, it's a very uninspired title. It doesn't really have a jolt. It doesn't have any sizzle that I've noticed, which is unfortunate because you kind of want one of these games to really pop at some point, and this one doesn't quite have that, you know. But anyway, what I did with that card, FYI, was I spent 100 silver to capture that turtle perfectly to get 100%. If I used just a normal card that I bought earlier, it would have just been like 43% or something like that. But if I spent 100 gold, which is the dual currency system, I would have caught him no matter what too. So, you know, the the higher level the monster, the harder it is to capture, regardless of how weak it is. It's also like there's some weird statistical stuff that goes in with, like, in terms of like what your Pokemon levels are versus that one. But you know, whenever you come across a rare monster, it's just really hard to catch. I mean, unless you want to sit here and play this game for gazillion hours, you're gonna just want to spend the gold, which is kind of unfortunate.
This all seems so like placeholdery to me.
Yeah, it's a little different, isn't it?
But I mean, like that kind of gets me back to the point that I was trying to make earlier, in that, like, you know, do you want to invest like hours and hours of your time into something that feels placeholdery, just because it kind of reminds you of Pokemon? I mean, I don't know, it's like a weird psychological phenomenon that people are so hungry for this style of Pokemon game, and it's like, yeah, I'll do whatever.
Right.
This dude that barely walks through doors and, you know, has no walk animation, yeah, let's do it. This is awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Something happened in the art and animation department with this video game that I don't know.
It's just like such an uninspired, like, little dungeon kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to find a stairway right now.
I feel like that speaks to a much larger, like, weird, you know, app store craving that people have for these Pokemon games, and that obviously there's like a market for this kind of thing.
Right. I mean, we saw the same thing with Minimon Online or whatever, right? This is this game that's like literally broken to the max, but people are about it. You know, like it's pretty wild.
So strange.
I'm just tapping on these individual squares, FYI.
I mean, it kind of makes you wonder if iOS is capable of having a game like Pokemon with all of everything that went into that game.
I think it is. I mean,
for $1 or whatever.
I don't. Yeah, maybe the dollar price point is always going to be the catch, because I mean, I think it would be impossible to balance a game like that. You know,
you're just looking at a game like Pokemon. I mean, like, I couldn't even guess the size of the development team, you know, and how long those games are in the works and things like that.
Right.
You know, compared to, like, I mean, what's a big iOS studio now? Like a couple dozen guys?
Yeah, maybe most.
They can have games like as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, because their overhead's so insane. Yeah. No, I mean, you're totally right. You're totally right. I feel like the right team could come along and probably pull it off. I mean, you just have to... I mean, you have to take consideration of things like art. I mean, like, one of the... And maybe not so much of Pokemon now, but I mean, those original 150 monsters, they're all readily identifiable and fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Bulbasaur is cool. I'm not sure Gold Dragonling is all that hot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's another thing. I mean, it's hard to chase the success of Pokemon, because I feel like Pokemon was a very, I don't know, it was the right place at the right time kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, where, like, Game Boys were kind of, like, catching on a real big way amongst, like, you know, that kind of demographic of kids. The trading mechanic was really cool before there was really any kind of, like, online trading / strategy component to anything.
Right, yeah.
So they were doing, like, a lot of cool things that no one else was doing at the time. I mean, the whole concept of, like, oh, I have the red game, you know, you have the blue game, this is awesome, let's, you know, see what we can come up with together.
Exactly.
I mean, that was great. But now I feel like Pokemon exists in people's minds as this, like, weird rose-colored glasses nostalgia kind of thing.
Hey now, Pokemon Black and White, or whatever that was called, sweet.
Yeah, no, but if you had never played that game before, like, I agree, you know, I have very fond memories of the Pokemon Game Boy games as well. My point is, like, if you had never played those games before, and someone today handed you, you know, a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Black or whatever,
right?
Would you feel the same way about it? You know, I really,
yeah.
I don't think I would.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there's just something about, you know, the whole, like, elements of gaming in that time period that made for a Pokemon-style game to be very appealing.
Also, Bulbasaur.
And Bulbasaur. And they had, you know, like, the cartoon go at the same time, like, merchandising out
yeah.
the ass. I mean, like, the game was just another arm of the, you know, Pokemon Kraken, I guess.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. That's an interesting thought.
I mean, it makes these games kind of weird, because, you know, you're dealing with one barely formed tentacle of the Kraken.
That's our second Kraken mentioned in the last 2 videos. I feel good about this. I was calling it Kraken, though. I was putting a little Indiana spin on it.
Wow. But I mean, am I off base? Am I crazy? Are people gonna hate?
I don't think so. I mean, I think your logic's sound. I think you've thought about Pokemon more than a normal man, maybe.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of thinking about because people are all over these nostalgia-based games. I mean, like the SquareSoft games on the App Store is such a perfect example of that.
Right.
Like people are hopping all over Final Fantasy Tactics, even though it was a terrible port and $20, and like a laundry list of things that people hate in iOS games.
Right.
But it didn't matter.
Right.
Well, like, I think that's because everyone has fond memories of that game. But like, for instance, I totally missed Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
When it was out, like the first time when everyone was playing it, and it was becoming ingrained in everyone's brain as a classic title. Like I don't know what I was doing. I was playing Genesis probably, or who knows. And going back to it now, I'm like, I don't know. This is just okay.
You gotta play that on an emulator and speed it up by like 16.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
like,
I get it.
Even though I know, like, everyone agrees the game's a classic, but like, as someone with no experience going into it,
right?
As like a fresh game now, it's just as like, eh.
Well, iteration is so rapid. I mean, like, just think of that. Chrono Trigger came out what, 90, 97, 98? I don't know, but I mean, like, now we have Gears of War in just 2012. I mean, think of how much of a crazy leap that was, and like everything that's so much better about it. Now there are action RPGs, right? Like, that's why Chrono Trigger seems so slow, because you're just like, what?
Right. It feels slow, and I think the limitations that they had in those cartridges when it comes to a storytelling perspective also makes a lot of the game get lost in, I guess, translation of time. As weird as that sounds.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right.
I mean, because now, even a game like, Gears of War 3, which, terrible story by all, ways that you could measure a story. I mean, even that had, like, way more emotion than you could get through, like, the 140-character text box of a Super Nintendo RPG.
Right.
I mean, obviously, not, I don't know. I feel like someone's going to be mad at me for saying that.
Don't worry, because I probably got the release date of Chrono Trigger wrong, so... I'm sure you're going to be more focused on that.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, those
right, yeah.
just feel so abbreviated and so slow and everything else that, just to rally us back around to my original point, like, I don't know if a Pokemon-style game is what the world wants.
Yeah.
Even though that's what they think they want.
Well, I think the big problems with this game, just from my, 2 hours with it so far, is that it lacks guidance. Like, there is no... There are some narrative underpinnings, I suppose, right? But I mean, there's nothing that's just like, what am I, there's nothing telling me exactly what I'm doing and when I should be doing things. Like, I just feel like I'm out in this world, and it almost feels like MMO design in some ways too, where it's just like, I don't know, just do a bunch of these quests, waste your fucking time, Brad. You know what I mean?
That's kind of another interesting thing, though, about modern game design versus, like, retro game design when Pokemon and all these games came out, where it was, like, totally fucking acceptable to throw you in a game world where it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I guess I'll start walking right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in Pokemon, it was just like, go find a gym trainer. You know what I mean? Like, this game doesn't even, like, I at least that hasn't hinted at me, or I missed it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a dungeon right now for some reason. And I have a Pokemon
hippopotamus thing.
Yeah, and I have a Pokemon named Dark Priest. Apparently, I was playing this a little bit. I've read a little bit on it. That hippo thing becomes a summon monster, and like as you play, apparently you'll get more. They're called spirit totems. You'll get more. You can also buy spirit totems as well. One thing we haven't actually talked about yet. So like Pokemon is pretty easy. Like it's just straight up like, hey man, this thing evolves, it gets stronger, you caught it, whatever. And there's like a weird kind of like statistical system where like some Bulbasaurs might be better than others if you train them in a very, very, very specific way, but it's all kept in the background, right? This video game puts all that stuff in your face, so you can break down your captured monsters into things called soul stones, which is once I figure out how to like actually get my captured monsters up here, I'll convert my turtle to a...
Destroy my monster forever.
with fire. And you could feed these soul stones into your party monsters. And I guess the end, like, little statistical twists to your existing party. Which, is a layer of abstraction more than what Pokemon does. And then there's a couple other things, too. I mean, like, they evolve at different rates, and I have a feeling that items in specific patterns of feeding. There's a feeding mechanic apparently in this video game.
Doesn't this kind of feel like you're just playing menus though, not like immersed in any kind of world?
Oh right, no, you're totally right. I mean, this is a very if there is a couple things you can talk about this game, obviously production and world design and stuff like that. They didn't create anything cohesive. They created a bunch of really cool UI elements that work together, but there's just nothing like to exist in.
So what do you say? Check it out. Wait for a patch.
I don't think a patch is going to fix it. I think these are like core design flaws. Now, I do think this game could float a lot of boats. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you like what you've seen so far, then obviously this game's going to click with you because this is what it is. You know, it's Pokemon except stripped down with really bad art. You know what I mean?
Well, if you like cats with skulls on them.
That's pretty.
Dragon Island.
That's a pretty cool cat.
Right? Maybe? I don't know.
Who knows?